Very good. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here, first time in Novosibirsk. I have to surprise you, I have absolutely no IT background, and I reckon I'm probably the only person here in this room. And you might find it a bit surprising even more when you have a look at the title of my presentation that claims that making a forward-looking city taking more, or actually it takes more than just or only technological innovation. So I've been asked to tell you something about smart cities, the concept of the smart city. Coming from Vienna, I think this is probably a great thing that the city does. So we don't only focus on good cakes and classic music, but also a smart city. Now, before we have to start off, let me tell you something about the statistics and the data. The boring stuff, the more academic stuff. We have now worldwide already 153 cities that have an official smart city strategy. That's at least what the latest Smart City Strategy Index says. And you can see here on the map, I think I have a, sorry. Okay, I hope now it's a little bit better. Now, when you take at the map, you see actually a strong concentration of smart city strategies in Europe. And geographically speaking, Europe is probably is the leader in smart city strategies, with holding more than 40% of all the strategies. And there's been quite a big increase on the cities that have published the smart city concept. Again. Yeah, thank you very much. Now it's much better. There's been an increase of 60% of the smart city strategies that have been published since 2017. You can see that on the graph here on the top right, the big increase since 2008. And Vienna actually was awarded for the third time in a row having the most successful smart city strategy worldwide. So, of course, it is not enough to only have a good strategy, although at least we have one, but it's even more important to have a good and a strong implementation to build a smart strategy. And there's actually only 8 cities in the world that have these, and Vienna on top. And this is probably now where I'm going to start off with my little marketing speech about the smart city strategy in Vienna. But having a look at this graph, it says that Vienna is leading ahead of London and St. Albert in Canada. And you might know that we are not a big country. It's actually, I mean, especially comparing to Russia, we are only 7 million people living there, and we basically only have one urban agglomeration with 1.7 million, and this is pretty much only Vienna. However, Vienna is facing a really strong urban growth. So, and by this urban growth, we are also facing quite a few challenges, how to deal with all these people and to deal with the infrastructure that is needed and so on. And this was one of the reasons why Vienna had decided to think about what is the future development and to come up with a smart city strategy. It all started pretty much in 2011 when the mayor of Vienna has announced that now Vienna needs to be smart and intelligent, just like so many other cities. And the smart city strategy focuses on the key goal to offer an optimum quality of life combined with the highest possible resource preservation for all citizens. And this can be achieved through comprehensive innovation. Now, that means that the Smart City Vienna principles are based on quality of life, which is very comprehensive, of course, the dealing with the resources, and in this aspect, we're talking about mobility, energy, infrastructure, and all that kind of stuff. And one key principle is innovation. And this is where you will find the technology and where you find also education and economy and stuff like that. And another thing is also for the third time in a row, Vienna has been ranked on top position for the highest life quality among all cities. You know that probably, was just released last month, the new Mercer study. And we are in a top position above Zurich, Vancouver, Munich, and Auckland. And I believe, I'm showing you this not because I believe Vienna is such a great place and you should all go there, which I think you should, but I'm telling you this because it can be read or understood also as a proof that the smart city strategy did contribute to the high quality of life. Now, without wanting to bore you too much, I would still like to give you at least a short overview of the main or principal areas of responsibility where we believe that the smart city strategy contributes, which is health, education, innovation, energy, social affairs, buildings, mobility, digital, location, environment, and so on. So our approach is that the smart city strategy that we have actually is not a strategy that can or should stand by itself. No, on the contrary, it actually contributes to all areas. And like this, it can be seen as a cross-section. It addresses a cross-section, and actually can be seen as a part of all the existing documents, plans, campaigns, and stakeholders that we already have in the city. I would like to share with you some of the principal objectives, smart objectives, of course, and one or some of them, they contribute to the so-called top-level quality of life, which, of course, needs to be or is also a contribution to good neighborhood and a safe life condition, irrespectively of the people's ethnic background, for example, or their sexual orientation or gender identity. And this is very crucial that Vienna actually sees itself as a city of diversity that is fully expressed in all different kind of areas. I'll show you later what I mean with that. When we're talking about quality of life, we also need to talk about the quality of housing or the housing possibility in itself. And this is another objective, to enable or to offer high quality affordable housing and to offer an attractive housing environment. And this is the most important sentence, to make it accessible to the biggest or to the largest share of the population of Vienna. Another objective focuses on the citizen itself, on actually providing or enabling active roles in the control and in the design of the daily life. I'll show you later on some concrete examples. And of course, like any other city, also Vienna puts a lot of effort in safeguarding and keeping up with the share of the green space, because green space is definitely an aspect of quality in every city. And we are back in Vienna, I think we are very we are in a really good position because 50% of the entire surface of the city is covered by green space. Now you can imagine when a city deals with a big urban growth, you really have to keep up, trying to keep up with the area, with the green area or the share of the green area. Now, this was all very theoretical. What does the city actually do to implement a smart city and to achieve those obstacles? This is one example that focuses more on the social aspect, but also on the quality of everyday life in the city, and trying to contribute to the activation and to the public spaces, trying to activate it, trying to make it more livable. We actually have, back in Vienna, we have a special department service department that takes care of all kind of social initiatives, like this one is actually a photo that I've shot not long ago, just around my house. it's a program that supports the idea of local activities. So the city tries to give back a part of the public space to its citizens. It should be logic and clear that the public space is for the people that live in the city, because yeah, it says it's public and belongs to the citizens. So every once in a while, when it's possible, the city tries to give opportunity for the people go outside to make activities to contribute to the life in the public space, like neighborhood festivals or this kind of dinner in public space. Another idea that is supported very much by the city of Vienna, and it's also financially funded, is to raise the share of the green space with these kind of small parklets, we call it, or oases, or in other words, it can also be seen as a public living room in the public space. So there's a program in Vienna that funds this kind of activities done by the citizens. The citizens design these kind of things, and on behalf of that, the government takes away, now this might sound very, very weird to you, but the government takes away 1 or 2 parking lots in the public in order to establish these little areas that are good for the climate, that are good for the green space, that are good for the social activity in public space. This is probably one of my favorite project. It sounds very easy, but it was very, very complex to implement. It's called Pocket Manhattan. And we all know that spaces and areas in the city are very valuable because, of course, the space is very limited and all the cities or the metropole cities are growing. And this project tries to come up to implement the idea of the sharing concept. So sharing both with neighbors increases the quality of life. And I think this project is so interesting because it really tried to implement a new strategy for urban development. You can see down here, this is a traditional housing block in Vienna, in the center, and these housing blocks always consist of different or numerous buildings that, of course, have different owners. And the idea is pretty smart because it says who shares gets more. The project tries to systematically link different building areas and functions across all kind of properties, and thereby it tries to create synergies. So people there, they basically came together, they form a platform, which was, of course, a very complex planning process that needed to be moderated, and they try to come up with a very innovative sharing idea that people try to enable and to create common spaces either on the rooftop or on the ground for workspace, for just, I don't know, relaxation, for any form of activity. Not only that, by creating spaces for everybody with different uses, but they also try to apply new forms of mobility, sustainable form of mobility. They got together, they created a parking garage in the neighborhood, and they all put in their different means of transportation, which you then can share. So it's giving and taking pretty much in all aspects. So, going back to the other obstacles that tries to focus on enabling and offering really high quality houses, we are very proud of our, that we can look back on a very long and successful traditional program for social houses. I showed you some pictures of lately built buildings and also recreational areas. in Vienna, we need to build a lot because, of course, there are so many people coming into town that by now we are holding more than 200,000 social apartments in Vienna, and we do have a rate of newly built apartments that's almost 13 or actually 15 apartments per year. Not only that, but we also need to build new development areas that are really big, like 10 to 20,000 inhabitants, and we also always try to create workspaces in that district. And what I think is different, that all those development areas, and even inside houses, from a planning point of view and development point of view, we always try to offer a wide range of mix of different uses. So it's not only monofunctional, not only focusing on living, but also focusing on shops, on offices, nurseries, infrastructure for leisure and education, and all this kind of stuff. So going back to another, let's say, section of objects that try to radically preserve resources and ensure strong education, we are very eager to work on our education system. So the city of Vienna tries to provide a whole day in integrated schools, which is extremely important, especially for growing cities. And even as a goal for 2020, it will be important for Vienna to make sure that a maximum number of young people will continue with the education beyond compulsory schooling. Apart from that, talking more about how do we try to preserve resources, we are of course talking mainly about mobility and of course energy. And we are trying to hit the goal by 2030 that all the commercial traffic that is generated and terminating within the boundary of the community is largely CO2 free. And even beyond that, by 2030, we are trying to shift mainly all the individual traffic, the motorized individual traffic, from that towards the public transportation. And this, of course, needs or is asking for a holistic approach, thinking about new forms of mobility and transportation. What is very special for Vienna, which I think we are in Europe, apart from Berlin, that has applied these new campus models. And the campus model is basically is an educational establishment which cooperates different forms of education, such as kindergarten, schools, and also leisure facilities, all in one building. This building or this establishment pretty much tries to meet the needs and tries to keep up with the idea of a smart city in terms of education, but also in terms of energy. We already do have 6 of these huge establishments. We are about to build another 8 by 2023. And it turned out that just the heat recuperation also contributes very much in terms of saving. Actually, these buildings, they save up over 10,000 euros a year just in terms of energy. Talking about mobility, it is pretty much all about holistic interconnection and applying holistic approaches. We do have a new city district. It's called Seestadt Aspern. You can see it here, which tries to combine all different kind of objective or aims of the smart city in one place. It's a huge area with 20,000 people living there soon. And the aim of this smart mobility concept is to implement a mobility mix that conserves resources, but also contributes to the quality of life. So the target here, which already works, I have to say, is that 40% of the trips that are done will be made by the public transportation system, and 40% are done on foot or on bike, and only 20% by car or by any other motorized mean of transportation. And how do we do this? Well, because also before we were talking with the other speakers of trying to to educate the people going away from the car towards the public transport system. I think one crucial point in the development of this city district is that the first actions the city did, which cost a lot of money, was to bring the underground link there. There was nobody living there. First thing was the underground, the metro station that would connect the new city district with the center and with the rest of the city tissue. So, and then after that, they would actually move the people there. Like this, of course, it's much easier for the people to get used to firstly use the public transportation system, other than doing it the other way around. When you first have to use your car, it's much harder to re-educate the people and get them back, try to convince them to use the public transportation system. But then, of course, there's also buses, railway station, and the tram. But the mobility concept is, of course, much wider. As you can see here, different form of bicycles is also offered to the people, which all works with this mobility card. And another crucial point, which I think was very smart, let's use this word, is that the parking is organized off-street. So there is absolutely no parking on the public ground in this city district. It is organized in decentralized neighborhood garages, and the distance between your house or your apartment and this garage is actually bigger than the distance from the house to the next station for the public transportation system. So these are just very small, but I think very intelligent ideas to educate the people to use public transportation system. As I've said, one big goal of the city is to drastically bring the people away from the motorized transportation system to eco-friendly forms of transportation system. And the city has set its goal that it should be 85% in 2030. What does that mean? It means that you can only pretty much be successful with a holistic approach that, of course, contains different form or means of transportation. And we do also have this app, which I think that pretty much easily represents this approach. It combines all sort of means of transportation, regardless, bicycle, car, foot, public transportation, which is updated really frequently, every 7.5 minutes. There's webcams throughout the city that gives you an updated situation of the flow of the traffic and the situation in the streets. It indicates point of interest regarding mobility, and the traffic lights, they are seen, or actually they are a key factor for smooth traffic, because they contribute with, they have sensors, they monitor the traffic situation, the pedestrians, they also provide valuable data based on or regarding environmental situations and weather and so on. And another thing, as I've said before, Vienna wants to be a city of diversity. Just look at these two people there. Same gender. Yeah. Sharing as a concept, you will find that very much in the aspect of the mobility. We do have by now 14 different cargo bike hubs, and it's cargo bikes that are actually privately owned by private people, or by companies, by shops and restaurants and so forth, and they are lent to the citizens of Vienna for free. So they actually, the city tries to apply different strategies to bring the people away from the motorized vehicle towards eco-friendly means of transportation. And when talking about digitalization or the digital Vienna the Agenda Vienna, which we also have, of course, we are also talking about the society. The digital agenda in Vienna is pretty much the result of a collective work process between the citizens, the city government, administration, and companies, and it was written with the help of a participatory platform which is still available to give feedback and to constantly work on the digital agenda. Now I have to talk a little bit about e-government because that's what we think we are pioneer in the whole, across the Europe, with about 600 e-government services. And almost every school has Wi-Fi. And the city does really a lot of providing the kids with almost 20,000 computers in the classrooms, and we do have or hold the top position in open government among European capitals, which I've said, with 300 open data sets available for free of charge. And of course, in terms of development of the city, the strategy also tries to attract IT companies. So we already by now have 5,500 of those companies in Vienna. And I think probably Siemens is the leading one. Like so many other cities, we do also have apps and pods like this one, Sachs Wien. It says, tell it to Vienna. It is pretty much an instrument that helps or contributes, supports the communication between the citizens and the administration. So whatever you see in the city that malfunction or even works in a good way, you can just report it back through this app. It saves time for the citizen, but it also saves up quite a lot of personal resources on the side of the administration. And this little guy here, the Vienna pod, it's a smart companion that provides direct answers, which few years ago needed to be given by people working in the administration. So this is now all digitalized with about 200 questions a day and 400 different topics of Vienna and used by 280 different apps. Now, I've shared with you some concrete projects that deal or contribute to several objective of the smart city of Vienna, but as I've said before already, we do also have one specific smart city district in Vienna, which is located outside, of course, because inside the city there's no more space. This city district it was built for 20,000 people, so it's really big, and 20,000 workspace, and it follows the idea of a mixed and a compact city. So it's not a monofunctional, dead living area. No, it's everything. It's education, it's working, it's also industry, and of course it's living. And like this, when we are talking about a compact city, we are talking also about a city of small or short distances. So trying to keep everything within an area, not to create even more traffic and more transportation. And what is, I think, very innovative in this district, not only the way it was built and the size, of course, but it's very much that it's seen as a laboratory for urban future life, spanning from mobility systems, energy consumption, and construction methods. So it's constantly evaluated. There's research groups, research companies there that constantly work in these aspects. I just want to show you a few pictures of this district. This is now a part of it is already built. You can see there is really life going on in the public spaces. And with that, I would like to get back or come down to finally to a conclusion with my talk. Building or developing a smart city does not mean to only focus on technological innovations, but rather pursuing a holistic approach that understands technological innovation as an integral part. And for us back in Vienna, or at least the Viennese concept of the smart city does stand for, first, a strategy or an intelligent approach to the city in general. So that's where actually I come in with this holistic approach that I've tried to highlight and prove with all the project. And secondly, it stands for a social inclusive approach of the city development regarding all kind of different aspects: mobility, energy, urban development, of course, also technological innovation. And with this little greeting back from Vienna that was shot actually in the main square in front of the big St. Stephen Church, I would like to close my speech and thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer your questions if you have.
Very good. Thank you so much, Daniela. Let's give her a round of applause. This was so good. Thank you so much. Если у вас есть вопросы, друзья, вы можете подходить прямо к микрофонам. Ну, к микрофонам не с места. But before we do so, I can almost feel it in the air here, that the people are more like, well, this will never work in Russia, right? People are skeptical. I can sense this. It's, you talk about inclusive environment, you talk about all those different things. So my first question would be, do you see any of those, what's the momentum here in Russia? Like, do you see any of the steps towards that kind of smart city in Russia?
Well, I don't know about Novosibirsk because I've just arrived yesterday.
It's a very smart city, yeah. Novosibirsk is perfect, yeah.
I know that, I'm sure you are all very smart. I'm not so sure about the city government, but I've been to Moscow, and I can tell you that I see some actions in Moscow, like that the city tries or did already change some of the streets into pedestrian zones.
Yes.
It means that the city obviously is eager to raise the quality of the public space, of the urban space, and give it back to the people, to the citizens, or the Zaradia Park, for example.
Yes.
I think was also an initiative that contributes to the quality of life of the city and raise the green space. Although I also know how it was developed, this would be a different question.
That's not
but slowly, yeah, I think they're going there. But of course, it takes a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
How old is Vienna?
Well, definitely much older than the city.
Next question. Okay.
Thank you very much for your talk. I want back to Seestadt, which we were talking about. And I want to ask about students. If I'm a student and I'm living in Seestadt and want to learn in the University of Vienna, how will I get from one point to another, and how much will it take? How much time will it take?
Well, since there is this direct connection by metro line between the Seestadt Aspern and let's say the big university which are located in the center, it doesn't take more than 30 minutes, and it's easy. There's no changing.
Okay, and
seems like a loaded question.
Yeah, and what is the frequency of trains going over this line? 2 minutes? Thank you.
Давайте ближе микрофон к лицу.
Hello, thank you for your speech. This idea is perfect. I mean, it sounds great, but if I, for example, citizen of Novosibirsk, I know that my government, I have a lot of questions about city building for government of Novosibirsk, and from which thing I should start, like if I want to make my city better. Because I can say, government, please do this, because government doesn't have money. We even can't build 2 stations of metro for a lot of years. So from what thing I should start?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I do see your point, and you're totally right. It's not only about good ideas. To implement ideas, you need to have the structure, you need to have the money which goes along, you have to the right politician, and so on. So, and that's why it says it. Going back to Moscow, to Russia, it takes a long process with all those ideas and concepts. It's also a different planning mentality. It's a different. The city, I think, has a different position towards the citizen.
I think part of the question is like what like just an average guy from Novosibirsk can take if the government is not supportive of the idea of creating a smart city.
Try to be initiative yourself. There's actually quite of initiations that have been made in Vienna that really came from the bottom, like bottom-up activities. Because people do understand that's a democratic way of thinking, of course, that it's our city, it's my space, I pay for that. Every street is my street. It does not belong to the city. The city is the one that has to take care of it, has to clean it, has to put away the snow and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, even when there's new project being developed or initiated, there is you almost in Vienna you can't do anything without having these citizen initiations. They are really a pain for the developers and for the city, but it's an expression of the democratic way of thinking. And I think this is very important for development of the city.
Very good.
These small neighborhood things, projects, they need the engagement of the citizens.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Давайте свет зажжем справа от меня, пожалуйста. Okay.
Hello, my name is Dmitry. I'm marketing manager for Movavi. Thanks a lot for your speech. I have two short questions. The first one, how much effort is put to market all these projects to governments, business, and people in Vienna? Because as you said, people in Russia would choose a big parking lot over a green zone. And whether you need to put some effort to convince business or government to support your initiatives. And the second question is, if you were a mayor of Novosibirsk, what would be the first 3 steps that you would do to make Novosibirsk to be more like Vienna? Thank you.
Awesome.
I did not understand the first question.
The first question was about how much effort do you need to put in business, in working with politicians, and with...
how much effort do you need to put to market all this stuff
to market all this?
Yeah, because business wouldn't... in Russia, business wouldn't just buy cargo bikes, because why would they?
Maybe this question needs more explanation, and we can take this to the other session. But the second question, did you understand the second question? But the first 3 things you would do in Novosibirsk right now to make it a smarter city.
Is there any political representative here?
Do we have any political representative here? I don't know.
Or they would never raise their
What are we gonna crucify them here? Is that number 1?
No, I think that this.
It starts with politics, is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay.
Well, these are the ones that have to implement it. But I think it's the public space that makes a city so valuable and so livable. So working on the streets, creating parks, cleaning the streets maybe, as a first start. I don't know, things like this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Dmitry.